Well, if you haven't noticed, we're entering in a sermon series called the iKingdom, and I was very tempted to preach from my iPad this morning, but I didn't do that. I'm full of them. I got tons of them. So we're actually looking at this. I feel this tension within me, and I'm assuming that it's also within you. This tension where we read Jesus' teachings, we read the Bible, we read the message of God, and we hear this message to build God's kingdom. And then we also live in a world that sends us a very different message than that. And there's this tension between God's kingdom and the world saying to us, build your kingdom. Take care of your kingdom. And so I want to kind of unpack some of that, and we're going to be looking at today the castle or our home, and really how we, in a lot of ways, in comparison to the rest of the world, we live like kings and queens here. We live very well off. God has blessed us tremendously. And so we'll look at the castle. We'll also take, next week, the youth will be sharing with us about how they see God's kingdom in the world. We'll be looking at the throne room, and that's not what you think it is. I know what you think. I know what's going through your mind, some of you. It's about that place. The king would be entertained in his throne room, and so the king's throne room was a place where he would be entertained, and so he, the king and queen, would be entertained. So we'll take a look at entertainment in our society. We'll also take a look at the dining room, which is our relationship to food and how we are working in food and dealing with food in our society and what the messages we hear about that. We'll look at the treasury. We'll take a look at our money. And then also our wardrobe, our closets, what we wear, our self-image, how we portray ourselves to the world, and what society is telling us. These messages that society is giving us to do one thing, and then there's God's message to us that is often not the same message. So there's a tension there, isn't? Do you all feel that tension? Am I the only? I think we do. I feel the tension within me, myself, between these two kingdoms. Is it God's kingdom, my kingdom? So I want to take a look this morning. We're going to look at the castle, our castles, our homes. And so I want to throw out some statistics this morning, and I just want you to kind of take these all in, and I find these interesting. So the first statistic is that the average size of the American home is 2,393 square feet. That's the average in 2010, was the average square footage. That's actually down from 2007. It was over 2,500 square foot homes. Now compare that to 1973. In 1973, the average square footage in the American home was 1,660 square feet. So our homes have gotten larger over the past few decades, and so we're living in bigger homes. And we don't need statistics to see that. We can see every time a new development goes in, the houses seem to get bigger, and we can remember they're bigger than they were 10 years ago and bigger than that 10 years before that. So we think about that. The size of our homes has increased. Now, the other thing is the number of people living in those homes has decreased. So homes are getting bigger, but the average in 1973, there was 3.01 people per household. You always thought the 2.5 was hard. Try to figure out the 0.01. So you got 3.01. Today it's 2.57 per household. So the average number of people per house is 2.57. So their houses are bigger, and we've got less people living in them. Now, I'm going to throw this question out because I can't throw this out at 9:30. We've got too many answers. So here's the question. What do you think's been one of the fastest growing businesses in America related to homes in the past 30 years, 20 to 30 years? Actually, recession-proof business. The recession did not affect this business very much. Self-storage. How did you guys know? You guys are good. What's that? He hacked my iPad and got the message. So 600% increase. 600% increase in self-storage facilities in America. And I just got the latest statistics for 2010. There are 2.22 billion square feet or approximately 210 million square meters that represent 78 square miles of rentable self-storage space under roof in America. That's 3 times the size of Manhattan Island, to give you a little perspective. So you getting this? Bigger houses, less people living in the houses, and then more storage facilities outside of those houses. So more space for more stuff, right? So that's the tension. Let me throw out one more statistic to you that kind of helps us get some perspective as well. In Howard County in 2011, Grassroots Crisis Intervention Center, which is the place where people go if they need help with shelter or housing or they need help to prevent from losing their homes, they had 4,541 requests for shelter in 2011 in Howard County alone. We're the third wealthiest county in the nation. Some of the biggest homes in the world are built here. Not only in the nation, but in the world. So do you feel that, or is that helping us feel the tension between what we have and how blessed we are, and then the idea that God's kingdom is still out there to be built? I'm also reflecting this morning, I don't know if you all are aware, if you heard the news, but a homeless man went into a church, St. Peter's Episcopal Church here in Ellicott City, and shot 2 of their staff just this past Thursday night. So I'd ask you to keep our community in prayer, keep those families in prayer, which also is a tragedy that's happened within our community. So I think there's a need. I think there's a need for God's kingdom. There's a great need for God's kingdom to be built in our world and in this world. And so we come to Haggai. How many people have heard and studied Haggai before? Yeah, we got a few. That's good. Haggai, one of the minor prophets. You know, just like we have baseball, we have major league and minor leagues. We've got major prophets and minor prophets, right? And so Haggai is one of the what we call the minor prophets. And Haggai was actually preaching. He was a preacher preaching to the people in Israel after they had returned from a time of captivity. So a little rewind, a little short history lesson. If you remember, the Babylonians came in, Syrians came in and conquered and took the Israelites into captivity and took them away into a foreign land. So they spent about 70 years in captivity in foreign lands. Now a Persian king named King Cyrus came into power 70 years after this happened, and he freed and released all those captives to go back to their homelands. And so the Israelites were released by King Cyrus to go back to Jerusalem, to go back to their homeland, and the purpose of them going back was to rebuild the temple. In fact, King Cyrus gave them back all the articles that belonged in the temple and sent them back with these articles to put them back and to reestablish the worship of the temple in Jerusalem. King Cyrus also sent the people back with resources, things that they could use to actually rebuild the temple when they got back to Jerusalem. So Haggai is now preaching 18 years after King Cyrus had sent the people back to rebuild the temple. And the temple is still in ruins. It's still not being built. So that's where Haggai comes in with his message, and he says, you know, it's not right that we've come back and it's been 18 years and your homes have gotten beautiful and paneled and luxurious, and all the time that your own homes have gotten luxurious, the temple of God, the building of God has laid in ruins. Even though the purpose for their coming back, part of the purpose of their coming back was to actually rebuild the temple. So that's the backdrop on what Haggai's message is. And so Haggai is saying to them, you know, it's time to rebuild the temple. It's time to focus on God's house. And so the people are saying, well, they kept saying, it's not yet time. Now, why were they saying that? I think people are people no matter what part of history we're in, no matter where we're at. We just say, you know, I'll do it later, you know. How many of us put off things that we know we ought to do, right? And one of them, I think, sometimes is God's kingdom. We think, oh, I'll do that later, you know. I'll take care of that God stuff, you know, when I retire, when the kids head out of the house, or, you know, we keep putting it off. And I think that's what they did for 18 years. They were like, hey, we're just going to keep putting this off. And eventually we'll get to it, but, you know, we've got enough to worry about in our own homes, and so we're going to focus there. So they said, the time has not yet come to build the God's house. And so we typically do that. It's part of our human nature to put things off. Now, our culture is giving us a message that actually supports that. So So how many people know, before it goes up on the screen this morning, what Lowe's new slogan is? Does anybody know what Lowe's new slogan is now? Lowe's, home improvement. Do you know what it is? They actually got it last night. So the tagline is "Never Stop Improving." That's their new marketing thing. So never stop improving. So you hear that? So here's a quote from their press release. "Never stop improving is not just a tagline. It reflects our customers' mindset about their homes and about their lives." And it goes on to say, "Never stop improving is our promise to them that we will constantly be innovating and improving at Lowe's so that we can satisfy their ever-changing needs. The research shows that new brand position and advertising campaign make Lowe's customers feel motivated, inspired, confident, and energized." And then lastly it says, "With the Never Stop Improving campaign and innovations like My Lowe's is to become their trusted partner over the course of their lifetime." Now, the message that I'm hearing is Lowe's wants to be our trusted partner in a lifetime endeavor to improve our homes. So that's the message, isn't it? Never stop improving. Take your house. I mean, Lowe's wants to be he wants to be our trusted friend to make sure that we spend our lives improving our homes, paneling our homes, building our homes, making our homes even better than they are today. Now, why would Lowe's want to do that? Right. Why would Lowe's want to become our trusted friend to take us on this lifetime journey of improving our homes? It sounds really good, doesn't it? I'm like, man, this is really good stuff. Man, I'm going to run right out there and do that. So that's the thing. It's like, why are we doing this? And God's kingdom is there. And so there's this tension, isn't there? Because we get this message, we got to improve our homes. We got to keep up with the neighbors. We got to add these things. We got to improve these things. We got to add to it. And we got to never stop improving. What Haggai's message and the hard message is Haggai was saying, stop improving and start improving God's house. Stop improving your own places and your own lives and start improving God's livelihood on this planet and God's house. It's not that we shouldn't have homes. It's not that we shouldn't maintain homes. It's not that we shouldn't take care of our homes. I don't think Haggai was saying that. Haggai was saying, move some of your investment, some of your time and energy into God's home. So the other thing is, did you notice that Haggai also said, this is the reason why you lack fulfillment in your life? He was basically saying, we've got all these things and we keep doing all these things, but he uses the analogy, he says that it's like we earn our wages and we put them in a bag with holes. Do you ever feel that way about your bank account? It's like money keeps going in, but it never it never grows. It just kind of goes through it. It's like our bank accounts has a hole in it somewhere. And we're like, where's all this money going? Why? I keep putting money into it and it keeps leaking out. Somebody once who was a boat owner said to me, they owned a boat, and they said a boat is a hole in the water you throw money into. And that's really, that analogy Haggai was saying reminded me of that. And I think sometimes if we take on this idea that we're never to stop improving our home can become that thing that we just keep throwing money into and it just leaks right out of, and we wonder where all our money goes. And so that's part of that. That's what that's trying to do. Now, I am as guilty of this as anybody. I live in a new home. And I walk around my new home and I go, in our new house, the walls are all the same color. So what do I think when I walk and I see the same color throughout my whole house? What do you think I think about? Changing the color. I need to improve upon my new home. I need to change the color of the walls. Now, and also my wife is in cahoots with me on this. So we get this thing and we walk through the house. Yeah, we need to paint this, paint that. But if I paint the walls, then what's going to happen? We're going to need new curtains, right? Then the carpet's not going to match. See how? And so you can see how I can start to see the holes in the bank account starting to develop at this point, right? It's because we just, that is what we think about. So it's interesting because before we moved into our new home, we lived in an apartment. And we lived in an apartment, 2-bedroom apartment. We lived very simply. And we're shaking our heads like, I can't imagine. I have 2 daughters, 1 bathroom. So you can imagine I feel like it was so horrible, but I was living better than most people in the world, even living in that apartment. So here's the thing. How much time, energy, money do you think I invested in that apartment while we were living there? 0. Why was that? It's because I didn't plan to stay there. That was a temporary house. Do we plan to stay here on this planet? Is this where we're going to spend eternity? Is this where we're going to spend our entire life? No. The message of the Bible and the message of the King and what Jesus is raising is, if this place is temporary and this other place is eternal, and this is a consistent message in Jesus' teachings, where should our investment go? If I'm going to spend most of my time in this place and only part of my time in this place, where should my time, energy, investment go? Right? The thing that's going to last. And see, that's the thing about God's kingdom. God's kingdom is eternal. God's kingdom is the thing that lasts. God's kingdom is the thing that will be around forever. Our kingdom, not so much. Our kingdoms are temporary. Our homes are temporary. Just think about this. At some point, someone is going to buy our homes. And what do you think they're going to do to the paint in that home, everything that we've invested in that home, everything that we've done to that home? What's going to happen to our home at that point? They're going to change it. It's temporary. It's not going to be there forever. So Jesus is saying, wisely, challenging and saying, seek first the kingdom of God. Put your energy and your time into building God's kingdom, not just our own kingdom. So the question is it God's kingdom or my castle? That's the tension. Jesus says, seek first the kingdom of God. Make God's kingdom a priority. Put God's kingdom first. And all those other things are going to take care of themselves, is what Jesus is saying. The house, the clothes, the food, everything. So I posed somebody this question. I thought I could, why should we do this? Why should we invest in God's kingdom and kind of unpack some of the tension of that? So instead of me giving an answer, I actually asked Rob Boyle. We asked Rob Boyle to share. Rob was the one who coordinated our Haiti team to go to Haiti just recently. And so Rob actually couldn't be here with us. He's working this weekend. And so we asked him to share about why is it that he decides to make an investment in God's kingdom in the ways that he does that. So let's take a look at that.
Good morning. My name is Rob Boyle. Work has me traveling again. I'm really sorry I can't be in worship this morning. I think many of us take it for granted that we'll make sacrifices like this for our jobs. But I'm giving my time right now to do something I'm paid to do, not something I feel called to do. When I'm going to be spending time away from home, you can imagine I'd rather be on mission than on assignment. Over the last 20 years, I've had a lot of chances to participate in missions supported by Glenmar. Inner city missions, Appalachia, the Gulf Coast. Each has been a step in my spiritual growth, a chance to become the hands and feet of the body of Christ. It's a part of God's message that really makes sense to me. I live in fellowship with other Christians. I work for someone else's benefit. I go to bed tired with the feeling that I've done something important in the world. My heart hears God's call to mission work, and it feels really good to respond. Last month, I was a team member on my most challenging mission experience yet. 11 of us traveled to Haiti to work with the people of the little town of Mergé. We had 2 days working directly with students in the local school, and then a week of working on the hospital facility itself. We laid ceramic tile, glass brick, and rock masonry. We worked on their water supply, we painted the steel window hardware, and helped with the medical and dental clinics. We spent lots of time developing relationships with the neighbors. We came back with lots of stories, which you can hear more of next Saturday at 6 o'clock. It's listed in the bulletin, I think. It's going to be very cool. So I felt very satisfied to put work on hold for that time, fortunately with the blessings of my boss. But how do I feel about giving up that vacation time? It's a bit more complicated. Vacation time I give up is taken away from the family too, so it's been fortunate that my family supports and seems to appreciate the mission call. Both the boys have worked on crews with me and really seem to enjoy the experience. I think Marilyn enjoys some quiet time at home a little more than a sweaty mission trip, but she doesn't complain when I go away. I think that's a good thing. I feel like I'm cheating just a little bit because the missions I've chosen give me that feeling of adventure I look for in a vacation. It's certainly not a time of rest and relaxation, and there's no way to get that back. But a mission trip makes me think of Jack Dawson's line in Titanic, to making it count. And almost as much as love thy neighbor, that plays through my mind. To making it count. Our growth, others' good, God's glory. That's how I want to spend my time.
See, anytime we take our time and we invest it in something of God, we're saying to the world and to ourselves, God's kingdom is a priority. When we take vacation time out to go on a mission trip, we're saying, God, your kingdom is a priority. When we take time out and go and help in Sunday school or children's ministry here at our church, we're saying, God, your kingdom is a priority. Whenever we serve in a food bank or a soup kitchen or out there in the world, we're saying to the world and to ourselves and to God, God, your kingdom is a priority. So every time we make that decision to spend time and energy and resources in building God's kingdom, we're saying it's a priority to us. And that's what Jesus was hoping we'd get. You know, John Wesley, the founding father of Methodism, died a poor man. He died in a one-room apartment. And when he died, he left behind not a whole lot. If you were to inherit his estate, this is what you would have been left with. You would have been left with a library of books, some eating utensils like a bowl, plate, cup, knife, spoon, fork, and a well-worn clergyman's gown. That's what you would have inherited. So what did he leave behind? Well, let me tell you what he left behind. When he died, there were 135,000 people called Methodists following Christ. And there were 541 itinerant preachers. Which kingdom do you think he spent his life in? And what we invest in, see, is the return we'll get. Amen.